More from prosecutor Kevin Steele today about the charge against Cosby.
When you look at the case, there is a number of aspects that are undisputed. There's not a question in terms of, pills being provided to her. There's not a question as to the occurrence of what went on, of the digital penetration. And we've gotten that from statements, from depositions.
Laura Coates is a former assistant U.S. attorney. So, Laura, let's start there where I sort of left off with Kate Snow. The fact that there was no prosecution, that a district attorney looked at this body of evidence, at these same facts in 2004, and didn't bring charges. If you were the DA now, would that give you pause as to whether or not the charges are provable now, or what has changed from now to then? I mean, from then to now.
Well, what's changed, Joy, is the fact that there was a release of deposition testimony where Mr. Cosby actually admits that there was, in fact, some penetration, and there was a history of providing a substance to kind of put women at ease. You have the development of a case theory that was not necessarily present when the case was first looked at by the first DA. You have a woman here who now has the admission, essentially, of the defendant in this case that wasn't present before. But before everyone count their chickens before they hatch, there's a lot of legal hurdles that still need to be met. It's one thing to actually charge him with this crime now. It's also still going to be a hard time to actually prove it. Now, we're not just a few months or weeks out. We are over 10 years away. In fact, almost 12 full years away. It's very difficult when you don't have physical evidence and all you have is the hope that the transcript itself will be admitted into testimony.
And I'm wondering what it says to you that this charge comes so close to the expiration of that, basically the time to bring these charges, the statute of limitations.
Yeah, well, this was a case that's been a focal point of a very heated election. There was a political ad that was being run by the current DA against the former DA about the failure to bring this particular case. And so he's really at the tail end of being able to bring it. And I suspect there'll be several pretrial motions about delays in indicting this particular case. And they would be justified in bringing the motion. It won't be successful because you do still have the opportunity to bring a case within that period of time. The far more contested motion, Joy, are going to be whether or not the other alleged accusers are going to be able to testify and buttress this particular victim's own testimony at trial. That's going to be the key. We already have a court of public opinion that's condemned Bill Cosby, but in a court of law, we can't actually know about all those other cases unless the court allows them to come in.
And as you mentioned, Laura, Bill Cosby testified under oath about the rape accusations in a deposition for a lawsuit brought by his accuser, Andrea Constant. Now, that testimony was unsealed this summer by a judge. Cosby admitted giving quaaludes to women back in the 1970s for the purpose of having sexual relations, though he denied that it was without their knowledge. Cosby admitted having sex with Constant, but said it was consensual. Here's how he described what happened. Quote, "I don't hear her say anything, and I don't feel her say anything, and so I continue, and I go into the area that is somewhere between permission and rejection. I am not stopped." When you hear that form of an admission, which, again, from the Cosby team's point of view, he's saying he's not admitting rape, but does that admission, as a prosecutor, help you?
It certainly does. I mean, consent is not a matter of semantics. You can't kind of wade in the area of she didn't say no and she didn't say yes, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Somebody has to actually consent to that sort of action. And it supports the argument that if she was rendered unable to defend herself, unable to consent, and unable to actually say yes or no, it does not bode well for him. But you still have the issue of that transcript, which says that he was talking about the quaaludes in the 70s. There was not a direct connection between the quaaludes of the past and this particular incident. There has been testimony that he gave her Benadryl. I think that was the herbal medication that she's talking about having been given, and there's some inconsistency there. But they've got to bridge that gap. It's not an insurmountable hurdle, but it's not necessarily a slam dunk just because he's made that particular statement. There still has to be the consideration of other testimony, and the prosecutor still has the burden of proving that Mr. Cosby, with this particular victim, committed a particular sexual penetration against her will.